welcome to Uprisings. I have with us this evening Bob, now all of a sudden it went Kefauver.
There you go.
Perfect
pronunciation.
Who is the chairperson of the Democratic Party of York County. And he's here tonight to tell us about the big party in York and about his candidates for the upcoming election. The first thing, though, I need to find out from you is how long you have been the chairperson?
Well, that's simple. Just since June of this year, actually. Our bylaws require a reorganization of both the state committee and the county committees every 4 years. That's always done after the election, the primary of the midterm election year.
Okay.
So we elected new precinct committee people across, not just across York County, but actually across the state of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few weeks later, we brought all those newly elected precinct committee folks together to elect a new executive committee of the Democratic Party of York County.
Okay.
So at that point, I was, mid-June, I was elected chair. Previous to that, the previous 4 years, I had held the position of vice chair for campaigns and elections.
So I think that process is the same for the Republican Party. They elect their committee people, and then the committee people come together and vote on the chair. Did you have any competition for that?
I did not, actually. I was unchallenged.
Okay. Well, that makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how long will you be in this position?
It's a 4-year term, so until May of 2014.
Do people generally leave, or are there long-term, that is, continue? For instance, your predecessor.
Well, my predecessor, Mike Johnson, held the position for the full 4-year term, and before that, Bob Hague also completed his full 4-year term.
Just for 4 years. I mean, for instance, again with the Republicans, they had a chairman forever.
Yeah, John Thompson was 44 years or 42 years, something like that.
That is interesting. Again, some diversity. I was trying to figure out, what is the comparison with the numbers of Democrats versus Republicans in York County?
Well, right now, we have a little over 100,000 registered Democrats in York County. There's about almost 128,000 registered Republicans, and then another 38,000 of the I's and O's, as we call them, independents and others, which would include the Greens and Libertarians and the Jedi Knights. There's actually 3 people registered in York County as the Jedi Knights.
I asked you not to bring that up. You see the buns on the side of my head. Right, the Jedi. If I could see that. Do the Libertarians tend to vote with the Democrats or not?
I believe the local Libertarians, the York County Libertarians, are a more conservative lot in general, and vote more with probably more with the Republican side than the Democratic side here in York County.
Now, of course, the Greens are more likely to vote with the Democrats.
In general, yes.
I
think that's very true.
Okay.
Yeah, painting with broad brushes there.
Right, because as we both know, everyone has their own sort of issues. And they stick to them for some reason.
Sure.
Your job, I guess, is to what they call herd cats. Is that right?
Yeah, the famous quote from Will Rogers, "I don't belong to an organized political party. I'm a Democrat."
Okay.
So yeah, it is a lot of herding cats in many ways. Or a lot of people also say that you ask 10 Democrats their opinion, you get 11 answers.
Okay.
And that kind of diversity of thought is actually one of the strengths of the Democratic Party in my mind.
Okay.
It can be a little challenging at times, but the more ideas you bring into the mix, I think you get stronger results in the end.
How long have you been involved with the Democratic Party?
The first campaign that I worked on was President Carter's re-election campaign in 1980. That was the year I turned 18.
Okay, what was the outcome of that?
It was not good for us.
Listen, I completely understand. I totally fell in love with Ron Paul. I mean, I actually, through December of 2008, I guess it was, I was looking at the website and following all the news on it and telling my kids, this guy, and I actually bought a plane ticket and flew to New Hampshire and knocked on doors from there.
Good
so
for you.
I know, well, of course, he was not successful, but here we go.
But it's great that you had that kind of commitment to get involved with the political process, the small d democratic process.
Yeah, I really.
On that level.
Yeah, I mean, I still. And by the way, and now, of course, the Tea Party people I guess you're going to presume. I'm going to say it this way. I actually watched the Democratic State Committee dinner and speeches, and it didn't sound to me like they wanted to embrace Tea Party people. Is there sort of a position that there is a natural animosity between them, or because frankly, I think that many of the Tea Party people are those who stand for civil liberties. That is, government out of my bedroom, out of my bathroom, let me drink the milk I want to drink, let me, all those sort of things, which I think that's a very strong, those emotions are very strong, and if they found a party that, embraced them, and frankly, I'm not sure whether the Democrats and either of the Democrats or Republicans embrace that leave us alone kind of concept. But what do you think with respect to them?
I believe that, once again, painting in broad brushes, I think that the libertarian, the Tea Party's, the average Tea Party person has more of a libertarian bent. Once again, locally, I think more so than even nationally. Though in general, the Tea Partiers are typically more conservative than the average Democrat. Okay. So I think that they identify there with the Republican Party more closely, perhaps, than the Democratic Party on a lot of issues. But there is no Tea Party per se. It's not an actual political body. It's just sort of a broad name for a group of individuals who really don't have a unified platform, and their views are all over the place as well.
Exactly, which to my mind makes them a real source of feet on the ground and knocking on doors and financing. I mean, what they're doing is using, and I know that you seem to have embraced the use of the internet and are modern in that regard. But the internet is where these kind of donations come from people who say, yeah, I'll send you some, put it on my credit card, just fight for my right too. And I think that just going off my own thinking, although this is rambling, but I think that this Tea Party group is huge. It just seems to me somebody should take advantage is the word I want to use, but to help them become a real force. I think when we were talking about whether we have a republic of people's power bubbling up or power coming down, and from my perspective, it seems like the power is down against, and I think the people are responding to that. Isn't it an opportunity for someone like you in a county, you're a county chairman, to gather these people in your county for strength and support?
I know that there's been some specific outreach, as one example, from our gubernatorial candidate, Dan Honorado, from his campaign to local folks who identify themselves as Tea Partiers, and they seem to be in general much more comfortable with Dan Honorado's positions than with the Republican candidate Tom Corbett, and that's why we have approached a number of them, to ask for their support. That's
neat. When I was watching this thing on the Democratic Committee dinner, their speakers were talking about, and commentators were talking about this sort of enthusiasm gap between the Republicans. I guess the thing is, it's easier to be really against something than to be really for something. I'm not really. Yeah. It must be a human nature that I'll have to go and study. So I'm going to go to Hopkins or something, get a degree in psychology. But for some reason, I'm against it is stronger than I'm for. So you have this whole movement of individuals who are not happy with the movement of the country. And I'm not saying it's necessarily with Obama specifically, but just the fear. More and more people are losing their homes. More and more people are becoming unemployed, and so it really. And in any case, so I was heading somewhere with that. Tell me what was going on. The group that is the Tea Partiers, we talked about them. I'm not really sure what I was going to say about that, so we'll have to say something.
Well, just to follow up on the whole idea of the local Tea Party group, as I understand it, and some of the folks that I have chatted with, one of their chief concerns seems to be, as you mentioned, civil liberties, that type of thing. And one of their biggest concerns, I guess, that would lend them more likely to support the Democratic candidate Dan Honorado over the current Attorney General for the state, Tom Corbett, is that the Attorney General's office has been bringing lawsuits against local municipalities, trying to prevent them from passing ordinances to prevent such things as the spreading of sewage sludge on farm fields. There's boatloads of scientific evidence that's showing how this is making people sick. It's loaded with all kinds of heavy metals and other toxic substances, and they actually had threatened a lawsuit against Shrewsbury Township, and the Board of Supervisors down there then had to back down from some of the ordinances that they wanted to pass regarding some of this, and that whole situation has not been resolved yet entirely. And there's also a situation with them. With the Attorney General's office threatening some legal action against these CAFOs, these large factory farms where we have several thousand pigs, perhaps, or something like that. And there's an instance of that in the southeast corner of York County right now, where there's some opposition among residents there to conversion of a farm into one of these factory farms. And these are the types of things that have motivated many of the local York County Tea Partiers to support Dan Honorado as opposed to Tom Corbett.
Right. Well, I mean, I think I mentioned to you too. Some of Honorado's characteristics are certainly attractive as an executive. One of my questions is, how do people get to hear about this? You know, it's so unfortunate, but we don't have a real media that exposes everything. And unfortunately, we Americans have this crazy Super Bowl Sunday mentality where it's, you know, the Republicans and the Democrats, and you know, the fact is, as I said, we have so much more in common in humanity that needs to be sort of investigated outside of the realm of the party system. But then, of course, you're the chairman of the Democratic Party in York County. When we come back, because I do have to take a break here, we'll talk more about your candidates, but also I think I know what I wanted to talk about was that enthusiasm gap and what the Democratic Party was planning to do to sort of gin up the support for as opposed to support against. Okay?
Excellent.
Okay. So we'll be back in a few seconds or minutes and continue our conversation. Welcome back to Uprisings. We are with Bob Kefauver, the chairperson of the Democratic Party of York County. And I'm purposely saying chairperson instead of chairman because that's how the Democratic Party prefers it, correct?
We prefer to be gender neutral on that. Yes.
Okay. So no one will guess that Bob is a guy's name, right?
Probably not.
Well, there's Bobby.
There is Bobby.
There you go.
Yeah.
We were talking about this, as you would say, supposed enthusiasm gap between Democratic voters and Republican voters. First of all, is there such a thing? And if there is, what are you guys doing to...
Well, yeah, there is an enthusiasm gap right now. The story, I think, is way overplayed, though. It's not nearly as broad or as deep as what the media would have us believe. Having been a former member of the media myself, I know how it's easy to grab onto one little catchphrase or one little issue and just keep going with it, and they're really, milking this for all they can. So
they're just the reporters.
The reporters, the editors, the whole bit.
Talking heads.
The talking heads, yeah, and particularly with the national media more so than like the local media that we see here. It's an easy catchphrase that they can play up on. There is a gap of enthusiasm, somewhat, since 2008, shortly after the inauguration of President Obama in January 2009. We began to see even just our volunteer base just kind of, dwindle a little bit. People that may have been in twice a week into headquarters to help out were now coming in maybe once a week or something, just talking with voters in general. And that's because after what we saw as 8 long, dark years of Bush-Cheney, Democrats became very complacent, I guess is perhaps the best word. We're very happy to have had the White House, both houses of Congress, the governor. We have 2 senators, Democratic senators from Pennsylvania now for the first time in 70 years or something like that.
Oh, wait a minute, you had Specter.
Well, we have Specter now, and of course.
Well, I mean, he was a Republican.
But he was a Republican. He was a Republican until a year and a half ago. But we do, but he has changed parties and is a Democrat now. He's back where he belongs. Back where he started from, way back in the early 60s when he began his political career as an assistant DA and then DA in Philadelphia, which was when he first switched to the Republican Party. But with finally having control of all these different branches of government here for the last 18, 20 months, I guess, something like that, there was kind of this collective sigh of relief, I guess you could almost say, among Democratic voters and supporters and volunteers. That still exists somewhat today. It is not near. I don't think the gap is near as broad as what the media would have us believe, though.
Right, but I think I looked on your website, and apparently there's a push to energize your base. I think there's some march in Washington in a couple of weeks.
Well, actually, this Saturday, as we tape here, just a couple of days from now, there's the One Nation March, as it's being called. One Nation is an umbrella group of progressive groups that is having a march on the Mall this Saturday from 12 to 4. And One Nation is having this right now specifically to work on get out the vote efforts for November 2nd. In fact, the Democratic Party of York County has a bus going down to it, which is the first time we've ever really tried anything like that. But it should be a fun day for those that are attending.
Right.
But beyond that, our campaign efforts this year are much broader than they've ever been in the past. There is the Pennsylvania Democratic Coordinated Campaign, or I guess it's officially known as Pennsylvania Vote 2010. And this is OFA, Organizing for America, which was formerly Obama for America, and then morphed into Organizing for America
so
after
you don't have to change the stickers.
That's right. That's right. The logo's still the same.
Good.
They have teamed up with the Pennsylvania Democratic State Committee, the 67 county committees, and our statewide candidates, congressional candidates, and General Assembly candidates this year to form a coordinated campaign. The idea is simple, to just pool all of the resources together, to get biggest bang for the buck, so to speak. The effort that's being put forth this year for campaigning for this an entire slate of Democratic candidates is certainly the largest midterm election campaign effort that we've ever seen in Pennsylvania by Democrats, and is actually the second largest effort behind only the 2008 campaign. There will be more phone calls made in York County to Democratic supporters and more door knocks this year than we've had ever in any other year except for 2008, which is really very impressive because we're not comparing apples to apples when we're talking about presidential election year versus a midterm election year.
Right. And this type of election year generally does not get a lot of people out as much as the presidential election. Correct. Yeah,
we're going to see if the same patterns hold true as in the past. In 2008, there was, I don't know the exact figure, about 67% turnout in York County, all parties combined. And in 2006, it was about a 48% turnout. So it drops off about 20% from the presidential year to the midterm. We're trying to boost that number up a little bit. We don't expect to be anywhere close to that 68% mark that you hit in the presidential years.
But the number of new voters that came on board because of the Obama phenomena, they're out there now, but may not be as knowledgeable or interested or aware.
Correct. Yeah.
Of these elections. Of course, I don't know. I'm sure they all have televisions. America, the poor people in America are fat. So I don't know how to explain this, but the fact that they all have televisions and they're going to all run advertisements. So you're going to know Suspect and Honorado and who are all the other ones who are running. So they'll get that much about where it is or what's going on. But you want to get in touch with those ones?
We are making a concerted effort to go after the so-called Obama Dems, who were those who maybe registered and voted for the first time ever in 2008. I'm a firm believer in the idea that no election is more important than the next election on the calendar.
Okay.
Whoever we elect on November 2nd of this year, they're going to be in office for a minimum of 2 years if they're in the House of Representatives, either in Washington or Harrisburg. We'll elect a senator, U.S. senator this year that will be in office for as much as 6 years. And they'll truly have an impact on policy for years to come. The same way, a year from now, when we have, in the odd-numbered years in Pennsylvania, we have the municipal level races. So we'll elect county commissioners and half of the county row offices and half of the school boards and the borough councils and the township supervisors, all those. And I really think that those elections are more important than what we do in the even years when we have the federal elections and the presidential elections every 4 years. Because the municipal level races, the people holding those offices literally are your neighbors.
Right.
And if you have a concern, a question, whatever, you can go down the street or you can pick up the phone. You can, knock on their door, to your borough councilman and have a cup of coffee or a Coke with them and say, here's my concerns, or, this is, how can we address this?
Right. Well, I think it's hard to understate the effect of federal elections and federal men in power and women in power. But I do agree with you, and as I think I explained to you with respect to this particular show, the reason I decided to do Uprisings was to focus on our local, and it's York County, Adams County, but where we are with our neighbors. As I say, I do think I don't have a crystal ball. I just know that when we continue to spend and have no money and people out of work, we saw those pictures of the Great Depression and we've seen them on television. We are going to see them again, I believe, right here. I don't think there's any way around it. It's just going to happen. So when that happens, what are we going to do? Families moved in together. People pooled their resources. Bartering became a way of life. So we all read To Kill a Mockingbird. You've got chestnuts. I'll be writing your will for a bag of chestnuts. I don't figure out what the heck to do with a chestnut.
Right.
But so I think you're right with respect to these local officials. They're going to become even more important because of what's required of them directly from my neighbor. Which one of us has water? I mean, I really do think it's going to get that bad. Now, I don't mean to rain on the big parade that we have here going on right now, but this is my concern as well, and I think I'm agreeing with you that local elections are really important and should have more attention paid to them.
Well, and on this year's ballot, we have candidates running for the state house. There's 7 state house districts in York County. 5 are 100% located in York County. 1 we share with Adams, and 1 we share with Cumberland County. And they're relatively small constituencies. When those lines were drawn after the 2000 census, there was roughly 63,000 residents in each district across the Commonwealth. And I know for the Democratic representative from the 95th Legislative District, Representative Eugene DePasquale, he's very accessible to people, to his constituents. I know that Eugene's office, his legislative office, does a lot of work for folks who may not even live in his district, but they know him because they've seen him on television or he's quoted in the paper or whatever. So they're comfortable calling his office and getting constituent services and stuff.
Well, as a matter of fact, we probably could talk about each one of these candidates and individuals, but we don't have much more time. And so let me see, we have about a minute and a half.
Okay.
And I guess you want people to know that you're accessible. Are you not?
Absolutely. We have a permanent headquarters at 275 West Market Street in the city of York. And we also have a campaign office, a temporary campaign office through the election this year in Hanover at 118 Frederick Street.
Democrats in Hanover.
Democrats in Hanover, yeah, imagine that. And folks can reach us at our telephone number is, our main phone number is 812-1200, or they can email us at yorkpadems@verizon.net.
Great.
And our website is yorkpadems.org.
Okay, we'll make sure that we have that to put on the screen that they can. And I visited your website. It's very accessible and interesting. And you are very interesting, and I thank you so much for giving me the time to this. Really,
let's do it again.
Yeah. Next election season,
there you go.
I guess. Okay.
Anytime at all.
Great. Thank you very much, and thanks for joining us at Uprising.